Well, welcome everybody. Instead of our hybrid, we're going to a fully virtual today because of the weather, specifically in the northern part of Texas. So glad everyone is able to join. It looks like we have pretty good turnout. We've got a good agenda today, so I'm going to look forward to getting into that. But Anna, I'll turn it over to you so you can do roll call.
Okay. I'll start with you, David. David Yankee.
Check here.
And who do you represent?
Oh, I'm sorry. Dave Yankee, President of New Gen Strategy Solutions, and I'm representing the financial community.
Richard Abramowitz. There are a couple of people that should be showing up automatically. I'll check again. Robin Alanes.
Here I'm from Goliad, representing cities under 20,000.
Judge Dillard. Brock Lively.
I'm here representing the city of Plainview. I'm an official from a municipality or county solid waste agency.
Jeffrey Mayfield.
Good morning, Jeff Mayfield with North Texas Municipal Water District, and I represent a public solid waste district or authority.
Cheryl Murgo.
Good morning. I'm Cheryl Murgo, Houston-Galveston Area Council, and I represent a regional planning area.
Scott Pasternak.
Hey, good morning. Scott Pasternak with Burns and McDonnell, representing the general public.
Frank Pugsley.
Frank Pugsley, Park Hill, and I represent a professional engineer in private practice.
Chuck Rivette.
Hey, good morning. Chuck Rivette with Waste Management. I represent a professional with experience operating a commercial landfill.
Steve Shannon.
Steve, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
My apologies. Steve Shannon with the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling, and I represent a public recycling organization.
Risa Weinberger. Is it not allowing you to talk? Let me try to give you some. Oh, you're not on my list anymore.
I will say, Anna, I did see Rich join in. I already made him a presenter.
Okay.
So he is here. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. I was going to chime in.
Go ahead.
I said I was just going to chime in to let you know I was here.
Okay. And who do you represent?
General public.
Okay. We'll keep working on Risa. I know she was just here, Miss Weinberger. Do you want to go ahead and get started, Mr. Yankee, or?
Sure. We'll move ahead. Before we get started, I just wanted to check. I saw Steve Shannon, and it looked like he was in a deer blind. So, I hope that's not the case.
15 minutes ago, I was. Had to stop deer hunting to come to the meeting, but I'm glad to be here.
All right, good. All right, so on your agenda, the first item is an update from the Waste Permits Division. Charlie, we'll let you take it away.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Good morning. Hope you all are staying warm. So just a couple updates from the division and from agency-wide. First off, if you hadn't heard, Chairman Neerman left or retired, I forgot to check which one, but is no longer with the agency. That happened on December 31st. So that was his last month. He's been with the agency. I think he served just about a term and a half. So more than 6 years. I don't think he made it 12 years. And then just Tuesday, the governor announced that his replacement will be Chairwoman Pop. Came from the Water Development Board. So swapping over here, she officially started on Tuesday. I believe we had an agenda meeting next week, so that'll be her first agenda. So she has a lot of water knowledge, and whenever we get a new commissioner, all the divisions go through this kind of just training process of what the divisions do, what the permitting programs do. So happens with all of them. So we'll start doing that of training her up on what waste permits does. So you'll see a new face at the commission meetings. And so just want to let you all know about that, since they don't change too often, but usually when they do, actually that's our second change in FY24. So, okay, I can't really say they don't change too often. It comes in waves.
So is
okay.
Excuse me.
Yes, go ahead.
Charlie, it does, is there a briefing about the MSWRRAC and or all the other commissions that TCEQ has as well? So
we do mention it as part of when we brief a commissioner. We kind of just go through what waste permits does. So we talk about municipal solid waste. We talk about industrial waste permitting. And then we do mention MSWRRAC. We mention the solid waste grant. So we just give a high level outline of what the programs do. So if there's follow-up questions, we definitely answer them, but we do mention MSWRRAC.
Thank you.
Second update, wanted to let you all know that the Railroad Commission passed rules, a whole bunch of rules, but one special topic, I say special, one topic was about special waste. Their overarching, what Railroad Commission is trying to do is get related to oil and gas waste and that interchange between Railroad Commission waste and TCEQ waste. When Railroad Commission waste when oil and gas waste comes, certain oil and gas waste can come to municipal solid waste landfills under the special waste rules. What Railroad Commission is trying to do with their rulemaking for their oil and gas waste is get better accounting on how much is being generated, where it's going. So that's the purpose of the oil and gas waste rules in their much larger rulemaking. So the portion we looked at was a very small portion. And we had many discussions with Railroad Commission staff of what they were trying to do. How does it impact MSW, IHW? So those rules were proposed. I'd have to go look at my notes, but they were adopted in December. They don't become effective until much later in 2025, I think around July, August, maybe even later for the actual waste rules. But you may, if you accept oil and gas special waste at your landfill, you may start to see some changes coming from the generator about their reporting requirements. From our discussions with Railroad Commission, the Railroad Commission rule changes do not change anything on the TCEQ side. It does not change any of the way the landfills report if you accept oil and gas waste. So nothing changes on the TCEQ side. Railroad Commission was focusing on the generators and making sure they're capturing what's being generated and where it's going. So any questions on that? And Railroad Commission has I'll say this, Railroad Commission has a bunch of work to do. So even if the rules become effective, they may not start rolling out all the reporting requirements right away. But but the rules did pass. They passed in December, adopted in December. So if you start to hear about it, that's what's going on.
Okay.
And then legislative real quick. The legislative session, bill filing has started. I guess officially the legislative session hasn't started until Tuesday. Officially it starts Tuesday. They swear everybody in. Like we expect some more bills to be filed by the new members. Right now it's been, again, kind of like last session. The hot topic agency-wide is concrete batch plants, rock quarries, cement kilns. So landfills are not a hot topic item right now. Please do your best to keep it that way because it makes life a lot better for TCEQ. Just kidding. So right now it's been kind of, we've gotten some bills to analyze, but we've been answering questions. So we've gotten several scrap tire bills that were filed previously. The service contract bills again, and then some couple new ones that we've seen that may or may not impact y'all, but it's good to be aware of is there's definitely been a few more of bills of looking to regulate junkyards or recycling activities in the counties. So it's right now it's only certain counties, they're targeting certain counties, but it's interesting to see that the activities occurring at facilities outside the city limits, they are causing enough issues for counties that they are trying to get legislation passed. So these two bills, it's HB 373 and HB 1462, it really does appear they're trying to target junkyards, but they've made it broad enough where it could impact recycling facilities.
Hey, Charlie,
yes.
Can I ask real quick on that? So a lot of times we see, you said it's targeting certain counties, and so, sometimes you'll see larger metro areas. Are these some smaller, specific rural counties?
It's right now, the counties are, from what we've looked at, it's counties along the border with Mexico and the larger counties along the border with Mexico.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. And then the last couple, so there have been several PFAS bills filed. One of importance is HB 1674. It's about PFAS limits in commercial fertilizers. And certain composting activities do start to get into the commercial fertilizer realm. So that one does have some potential impact. So that was HB 1674. The other PFAS bill we've seen so far was just filed, so we actually haven't analyzed it yet, but it's just about a health effects study regarding PFAS. So that one will be, if the bill passes, that would be handled by our toxicology division. And then recycling, we've only seen one recycling bill so far, SB 728. From all the discussions Megan's had, we've had, I truly expect there to be more recycling bills. They're just still being worked on. With the biggest hurdle with recycling right now is funding. So that's first, all the discussions we've had is when we're answering questions from elected officials, we explain our programs, our recycling rules, and then they ask about funding. So the second question is always about funding. So I truly expect more recycling bills to come along. They're just being worked through the process. And then, so those kind of are the ones that have impacted waste permits. We've seen the agency-wide bills that we always see get filed about complaints, about environmental justice, public meetings, public notice. So we look at those, we provide input up to the agency on the impact. if any of those bills passes, it will impact the entire agency, not solely waste permits. So any questions? Chuck, see your hand up?
Yeah, Charlie, I'm sorry. I was trying to write. I just didn't write fast enough. The bill numbers for the junkyard targeting down in the valley, what are those bill numbers again?
Those are HB 373 and HB 1462.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And then related to that, for the PFAS one, do you know what the HB number is for that?
The PFAS fertilizer one is HB 1674.
Yeah. How about the one about health effects?
That is HB 1730.
Thank you.
And so for any of those of you not quite familiar with the legislative process, these are bills that have been filed. They have to go through committee hearings, and then they have to be passed. So the agency evaluates all potential bills, but only a small portion, if any of these, are going to pass. So last session, we analyzed probably nearly 100 bills. I think the only ones that passed were the plastic recycling bill, the advanced recycling bill, and another one. I can't remember off the top of my head. I did look at that part. So only a small portion of these will pass, could pass. And then what you'll see happen is February, March, April, Megan and I, and then we have to get a lot of information from staff, is we'll start getting called to hearings to testify on a bill and just provide information to the elected officials. That's kind of TCEQ's role in this part of the legislative process. And then Risa. You're still on mute, Risa, trying to talk. Okay, let me go to Rich and then Risa, we can come back to you.
Charlie, you mentioned SB 728 for recycling. Did you have something more specific on what that bill was about?
That is a bottle refund program.
Okay.
So there have been a couple discussions on that, but kind of how California does, and the ones that offer the rebate, the 5 cents back per bottle. So you get charged a fee at when you buy a plastic bottle, and then you can take it back to a refund center and get that money back. So that's the general. I don't know if that's the specifics in the bill, but generally when we say a bottle refund program, that's what we're talking about. Rebate refund centers that you can collect bottles and then take them back and get money back.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And then Risa.
Risa's in a chat. She said she can't unmute.
I can get you to unmute.
Yeah, she has access to, on our end, she has access to the mic. I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, Risa, hold on to your question. Let's see if you can figure it out, or if we can change your setting. And then once we get it figured out, you can ask your question. We can come back to me.
She was sharing that in the chat. She has materials addressing the effects of HB 1674.
Okay. So yeah, once we get you figured out, we can have you talk about, if you want to share any comments on HB 1674, be happy to. Any other questions? Okay, that's all I have.
All right, Charlie, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Sure, we'll be hearing more on, future bills as they start to get filed, what have you. Next up is the MSW permits section, getting an update from Megan. So Megan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dave. Good morning, everybody. Some updates from MSW. We have 2 vacancies. We still have 1 engineer position open and 1 environmental permit specialist. And the engineer position, I believe, is actually open right now. We're accepting applications. So hopefully we get some good applicants with that. And the environmental permit specialist should be posted soon. For our major applications under review, we have 22 permits and 5 registrations. That aligns pretty well with what we see quarter to quarter. With the winter storm coming and, we're all virtual today, I guess some of us are already experiencing the storm. Just a reminder that facilities may need an emergency temporary authorization to address issues like power outages or personnel limitations, equipment issues, etc. If your facility has a need, please submit those to our MSWPER@tcq.texas.gov email address. That's our proxy box. Where we monitor that, and we will also monitor it over the weekend. So you may get informal approval over the weekend and then an official letter on Monday if needed. So just wanted to remind everyone that those are available to you. Another reminder, our NOIs, the Notice of Intent to Operate, that tier of authorization was required to report their operational status by December 31st. This was new. I mentioned it at the last meeting that we had. We had a webinar. We have guidance online. Even though the deadline has passed, we still are accepting those operational status reports. So that's done through our STEERS reporting system. We have had some users report issues with STEERS. We're not the contact for that. We can walk you through how to actually submit the operational status or the who's required. But when it comes to actually like a login issue or a system issue, that would be our STEERS team. And we have information available on our NOI reporting page. So I just want to let people know that you can still report. I think we've had around 50 entities report, and I think we mailed around 700 flyers with the information that we had on file. We could be missing some folks. So if you know of anyone with NOIs, just let them know this is out there and we do need them to report. Any questions on the NOI reporting? All right. Another reporting update, our 2024 annual reports were due November 10th. Thank you to those who submitted those reports on time. We still have about 50 facilities that have not submitted their 2024 annual report, and we are calling those facilities weekly. And while we love talking with everybody, we'd like to talk about more fun things, and we need your reports. So if you haven't submitted those and you're getting those phone calls, please submit those as soon as possible. And we have instructions online to submit their report through STEERS or our online reporting page. So we're doing pretty good. 50 is actually lower than what we had missing this time last year, but we'd prefer not to harass our permittees to get them to report. So again, if you're one of those facilities, be sure to get that report in. And for trade fair, I think last time I had asked for recommendations on speakers or topics. We have a list of both our topics and our presenters now. So I was going to go ahead and share those. Trade fair is going to be June 3rd and 4th in San Antonio. TCQ, of course, has a webpage for the environmental trade fair with more details, and that webpage will have more content the closer to the date that we get. So for MSW, we're going to present on day 2 of trade fair, so June 4th. We're excited about this year's lineup of presentations. We're actually going to have a presentation from the North Central Texas COG. They're going to be presenting on, the title is The Full Story to Becoming a Regional Recycling Resource. And this was, we usually try to have something about recycling in our trade fair track, but we wanted to make sure we had a different perspective. We in MSW tend to focus on the permitting side. Obviously, there's a lot more to recycling than just getting the right authorization. So we're excited to have this partnership with North Central Texas to talk about their experience trying to become the regional resource. Another timely topic is understanding your waste management options after an emergency. Again, we touched on at MSWRRAC the emergency temporary authorizations and temporary debris management sites, and we're going to partner with our San Antonio regional office to go through the differences, what we can approve, what we've seen in the past, timelines, and some of the process stuff, but really so everyone understands that these options are available in an emergency or during and after an emergency. Another topic is landfill gas to energy, turning waste into a resource. Again, this is another topic. We have the landfill gas plants that we approve, and it's another resource and a type of recycling that we don't always touch on. I know it's not like our traditional recycling, but we are seeing a rise in these coming online. So getting folks the information about those. And then another one is waste management and recycling through transfer stations. And this is looking at the different levels of transfer stations. The hub and spoke model is becoming more popular too. We're seeing more transfer station applications every year. And so educating everyone that there's also citizen collection stations, there's low volume transfer stations, and then there's the registrations and permits for the more common transfer stations, and letting people know about how the recycling aspects work with those different tiers as well. So those are our topics this year. We're excited, trying to hit some different information based on what we see and the feedback that we received. So hopefully this will be informative to the audience and everyone can walk away with some new information. Any questions about trade fair?
Quick question. Sometimes you have a certain amount of free registrations, and I'm really thinking more for any of the MSWRRAC members that are governmental entities. Are there going to be some available for those folks potentially?
We typically have that available. I'll check with our trade fair coordinators, and we can send an email to the members who are, we'll send an email to all the members, and then if you're interested, you can reply and let us know.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'll say it may be a little bit of time for that because trade fairs in June this year, early June. So we'll ask and try to be proactive, but we may not hear anything about attendance and all that until a month or two from now. So we'll definitely ask now, try to get you all tickets now, but it may just be a little bit just as we get through that process. Sorry, Megan, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. All right, the last topic I have is actually a question for council members that we're seeking input on. So diverting organic waste or organic materials from the waste stream is a growing practice, and TCEQ has been approached by a variety of companies to process organic materials through anaerobic digestion or using biodigesters. There's a lot of terms, but ultimately they'll work the same. And in addition to diverting waste, other benefits include producing biogas and also producing soil amendments. And what we've seen is the size of the operation and the sources can have a wide range from an on-site biodigester that's small and is going to be used at a hotel, and it's just going to take the organic waste from the hotel or the hospital, all the way to multi-million-dollar facilities that have multiple sources of the organic material coming in. With our current rules, there's nothing to address these facilities. So we're currently looking at the composting rules for guidance on feedstocks and, of course, rules in 330 for the waste management aspect. So we're seeking input from the council members on how to appropriately authorize these facilities and also encourage the organic diversion. So my question, and this can just be an open discussion. Also, if y'all want to send emails, we can talk about it too. But what is your experience with biodigesters, and what do you see are the benefits and the risks for different authorization tiers that TCEQ should consider? Now, it's a lot to throw at y'all.
Any comments?
Yeah, this is Steve Shannon. Big topic. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I had my microphone on there off a while ago, Dave, when you were talking about me deer hunting. Yes, I was deer hunting this morning. One of the things that advantages that I see of it is the less space requirement of a biodigester versus, acres and acres of windrows. So there's something to be thought of there in terms of land use and land consumption. The fact that it captures the biogas in a time where we need all the energy we can get makes sense. It'll be interesting to see. I know it's been done, especially in Europe, for years and years, decades successfully. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Those are all the comments that I had.
Thanks, Steve.
I guess maybe one thing to also think about is what that process and how, and is it considered processing? And so do you have to take a look at, the processing rules? So like as they apply to, for example, like transfer stations and those type of projects, or is composting more applicable? We've been approached in the past about these types of projects, but nothing is really ever panned out. So I really don't have any hard experience with it. But those were the kind of things that we always were looking at and trying to sort through whenever we had those kind of requests, is like, how would that kind of a facility be permitted or registered?
Yeah, and to add on to what Jeff was just describing, perhaps talking with folks at TCEQ on the water wastewater side of things might be informative, because you do have several wastewater facilities in Texas that provide anaerobic digestion as a part of their systems already. So that might provide some key insight in how this could be addressed. I know what you're talking about, Megan, is probably more of a standalone type of a AD type facility, but still could have some help.
And actually, that's interesting. We have been approached by a company who has, they just about any organic material they want to accept, and including having a wastewater treatment plant on site. So it really, the range is so wide that, and we have sort of the square peg round hole situation with our current rules, where we don't want to say we can't authorize these, but we also want to make sure we're being protective, but also that it's feasible. So we're trying to find that balance. So thank you for mentioning the wastewater group.
Yeah, I think like Steve said, it's a very big topic. And like Scott said, wastewater co-digestion is also interesting, because I've seen everything from the package composter where you put your food waste in, that's the size of electrical box or something like that, and then you've got the large scale things that Jeff's probably been approached about, that's in bunker, that's going to cost you tens of millions of dollars, which with our disposal rates doesn't make sense. And then I know I'm aware of at least one wastewater plant that's co-digesting macerated food waste and has authorization to do that. And our data has shown that it doesn't upset the digester and may or may not have an appreciable impact on gas production, but it is one way to take care of some of the food waste.
Thanks for that, Frank.
Megan, the co-digestion has worked really well in Southern California for a decade and a half. The trick has been how to macerate the organics so that you can pour it into digester system without it getting everything all clogged up. But there are ways to do that. In the early 1990s in Texas, there was a really infamous project that was affectionately known as Cow's Belly, and it was trying to do a large scale anaerobic digestion. And one of the tricks that it always comes down to those systems is it batch or is it continuous? If it's batch, then that means you got to store organic waste on the ground in the open in some way. And I don't know how that is anything other than processing. I don't see how you could call it anything but processing. If someone comes up with a continuous stream, well, I want to hear about that, because that's other than a wastewater treatment plant, I don't know of any other Cow's Belly continuous streams where they just feed in. But anyhow, the Cow's Belly fell apart in the 90s because it was money. It's just like Frank said, millions and millions of dollars to do it. And compost, I don't know, Risa can't talk right now, but from what I hear, the compost yards are giving it away right now after the barrel and all that.
She did have a comment that says, I think it would be appropriate for a separate tier for these facilities if you're talking about in-vessel composters. And add would logically be in a ADD, would logically be in the same tier.
Yeah.
So Chuck, you were, just to make sure I heard it right, it sounded like you said cow belly. Is that what it was called?
Yeah. You know, a cow has six stomachs, and the anaerobic digester that was proposed had either 5 or 6 chambers as it progressively wore the food down. The process at that time was they didn't want to do any or much upfront processing. They wanted to put it into the system and have the system do the processing. And I think what people have found out is that it just works a lot better if you do some kind of upfront maceration.
Yeah.
And make it into a toothpaste of some type.
I like the technical term. Just one comment I'll mention anecdotally, because we'll work with wastewater utilities. There's definitely some opportunity and benefit, with food waste. And there's been some folks that have looked at that, and I think Scott with Burns and Mac, they had done something looking at, I can't remember if it was Fort Worth wastewater and food, what have you, but I do know some of the wastewater operators get very proprietary about putting other materials into their stream for processing wastewater, because theirs is, kind of to Chuck's point, it's a 24/7 operation. And in the big picture, food waste is a very, very small portion, and they don't want to mess with the formula for how everything works with the microbes, et cetera, et cetera. So, I've seen that with a couple. So that's something that has to be overcome if you were to do anything more in that area.
Thanks, Dave.
Risa had one more comment. There are continuous in-vessel composters, larger typically. Pre-processing and feedstock screening is the key to co-digestion.
Thanks, Risa. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing those insights. And we'll have to catch the rules up with the technology. You all know that's kind of an ongoing cycle that we have. And we're looking at stopgap until we can actually go through the rulemaking process. And of course, I would be open to public comment and go through that full rulemaking process. So right now we're getting input, and appreciate what y'all shared today. That was all I had. But if y'all have other thoughts on biodigesters and how to authorize those, different tiers, separate tiers, how the processing rules would weigh in, at the registration, NOI registration and permit level, we're looking for any feedback you may have.
Thanks, Megan. Hey, real quick, you had mentioned like 22, I think you'd said 22 permits and 5 registrations. Since I'm not an engineer, I'm on the finance side. I was just curious, like, how's the rough breakdown? Are most of the permits like amendments for subtitle D landfills? Are some of them transfer stations? Like, just kind of curious at a high level how those break down.
Yeah, it's a good question. I can speak generally. We have kind of, we see the same things in different ratios. So often we see expansions, so either a vertical or a lateral expansion, sometimes both. We also, limited scope amendments are, we call major, or they're part of the permits. Those are things like changing in operating hours, and that can be at a landfill. But then we also have the permitted composters, permitted processors as well. If there's significant changes to we have a couple that have significant changes to their process, and they're also, maybe changing capacity, that kind of thing. So they could fall under there. Trying to think what else we have going on right now. More often than not, it's increasing capacity.
Okay. But the vast majority are landfill related then.
It's the majority, but we do have transfer stations. In fact, a lot of our new permits are transfer stations. It's probably 50-50 on transfer stations and landfills. Yeah. And then maybe a medical waste registration here and there, compost registration. So. Okay. Thank you. Just the last thing, we'll move on. So I was looking at the org chart when you were going through that. So is Diane Barnes back on a temporary basis? Yeah, Diane has been working as a temp for us for, I think, 2 years. She came back shortly after she retired, and her tasks are pretty focused to annual reports and helping us with record keeping. So she's also someone you may talk to if you're a facility that hasn't submitted a report. You may hear from Diane as well.
All right. Well, tell her I said hi. I always enjoyed working with her.
Sure, will do.
Okay. Any other questions for Megan? Okay. I think we're going to do a second roll call if necessary, Anna. I don't know if it's necessary.
I already know that Risa's in the meeting. Judge Dillard has. No. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Okay, just moving along. The next topic on the agenda was the business and program services section update. Santos, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry, Scott had his hand up.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to introduce. So Scott Trebus with Republic Services, and I represent a solid waste management organization comprised of commercial operators. So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, just a couple of things. I think Megan mentioned about the status reporting that the NOI folks were going through. We also have that going on with our scrap tire generators and land reclamation projects, and we've seen the same type of issues as Megan's folks have seen, and the again the just working through steers and trying to get registered, as well as reporting. We have, as of yesterday, 61 facilities that have reported their status. And again, this is after I think three different webinars that we had for training folks on how to get onto steers, how to get through steers and report. Also a series of days where we had the full team just about available to help folks go one-on-one. So again, we sent out letters, we sent out emails. I think we even got some of our partners to help out, and so we'll keep accepting those status reports throughout the year, and again, develop a stronger database. And then we're also talking already about different strategies for next year. So again, something new for us, but also something new for definitely the generators and Marputs facilities with scrap tires. So we have that going on. We also, for those facilities as well, we also have an annual report where they're reporting back to us the number of tires that they managed, and also the where was the final destination of all those tires. Those reports are due to us by March 1st. And so we're, again, reaching out to those folks and having those folks report. Those reports actually come from all the transporters that we have, and the processors, the folks that do the cutting, and then also folks that use tires for fuel. Those folks also have to report. So it's a little bit smaller group, but definitely the information that we get is vital to the program. So again, we're reaching out. We're doing a lot of outreach for those folks and for that reporting. So that's kind of it on tires. The big thing is that it's MSWRRAC nomination and recruiting time again. And so we've got 9 vacancies, 3 that are current vacancies, and then 6 that will expire at the end of August. And so we just got approval to publish our notice that provides the positions that are open. We have provided a February 25th deadline for applying. We do have in the notice a link and also a QR code where folks can click on and get the application, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, and also all of the other information about the positions. We're looking for the notice to be published in the January 24th Texas Register. And then also we're going to be doing some social media blasts on that. And we're also going to get with our partners with TARC and the different COGs and trying to recruit members for that. One of the things that we did do is we kind of modified the form. We're still working on getting it interactive to where you can actually download the form and fill it out. You don't have to copy it and write down the information. So we are doing that. Wish I could have shared that with you today, but we're still kind of finalizing some things. But we will make it available to everybody. And then the other thing we did is Section 3 in the application. Asked for you to fill out the application itself and to send any other relevant materials, but it didn't quite give examples of what that type of material may be. And really what we're looking for are resumes, letters of recommendation, maybe some association memberships that applicants, nominees are involved with, any kind of report that they have developed or contributed to, those kind of things, to just give us a little more information. We usually get asked for this kind of information when we develop that final packet and send it to the commissioners for their approval. Again, the commission does approve each of y'all's positions. And so they usually ask for this kind of information just so that they can know a little bit more about the person and that application that they have in front of them. So again, we've done that. And then we've also have included information there about that we do require a conflict of interest questionnaire be filled out. And so instead of, I think in the past we had gotten the application, and then after we had done some general review, we sent people back that questionnaire. Now we just include that, hey, you might as well fill it out. And so we get it from everybody. So again, those are going to be some of the changes that you'll see. We've got a deadline again of February 25th for the applications to be filled out. There'll be a review. We'll still accept applications after that, but we're really kind of giving ourselves a deadline there. We'll start reviewing them, and then we're looking to have the nominees go to agenda sometime to the commissioners in late July, early part of August, in time definitely for new members or reappointed members to be able to make it to that October MSWRRAC meeting. So that's kind of the plan right now. So with that, anybody have any questions?
So just to make sure, so everybody, in case you don't have the sheet, the folks whose terms are up in August, Richard, Scott Trabus, Risa, and myself. I'm going to let you folks know that I will not be reapplying for my position. I am going to work full-time for 2 more years through the end of 2026. Then I'm going to go part-time with NewGen. So I think it's a good opportunity for someone else to step up. I have talked with Megan. We have one of our folks, I will let you guys know, we'll let Seth Cunningham will be putting in a nomination from our firm. He's got the financial background. He's very familiar with, Texas and the municipal clients, but he does not live in Texas anymore. So Megan's going to run some traps to make sure that's okay for him to apply or not, since you do the hybrid. If that doesn't make sense, we won't do it, but you guys run your traps. But the most important thing is you folks will have to find a new advisory council president. And so good luck with that. There are a lot of qualified people. So giving you a heads up.
Yeah, that is something else that'll be coming up in this packet as well. Is that we will with the David's whether he was going to apply again as a member, but his leadership position does expire at the end of this year as well. So we would need to go to the commissioners again for them to appoint a chair president of the council. So yes, that is something that we'll also include with that package. In that package. Anything else?
Any other comments from anyone else on the advisory council? I will just say I've been on it for over 20 years. I've really enjoyed it. Worked with a lot of folks smarter than me, so I've learned a lot in this area. So I've enjoyed it. I think I came on right when you guys were doing the rewrites on the rules, and that's back when it was like 2-day meetings. It kind of made me wonder what I had signed up for. But I did learn a lot, so enjoyed it, and time for someone else to represent the financial community. Okay. Next on the agenda, let me go down. We're going to have an update on the Regional Solid Waste Grants Program. And we have Kimberly from TARC from the Texas Association of Regional Councils.
Helps if I'm not muted. Somebody has to do it in at least one meeting. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. For those I don't know, my name is Kimberly Lyle Dowdy. I am the Associate Director for the Texas Association of Regional Councils, which is the statewide association that represents the councils of governments across the state of Texas, who you hear a lot about in this group that's very important to us due to their work in municipal solid waste planning and other grant activities that we'll be talking about today. So each year, the councils of governments each biennium are required to put together a report of the activities that are undertaken using the funds they receive through the Regional Solid Waste Grants Program. To make it a little bit easier, instead of having everyone submit a separate report, we combine the stories, and with the generous help of the Houston-Galveston Area Council team, we put together this report that includes all 24 COGs and their activities, and submit that to the agency and the legislature before each session. We will send out the full report soon, but today we're just going to talk about the highlights and what was accomplished in fiscal year 22-23. Go down and pull up. There we go. So as most of you probably know, the Regional Solid Waste Grants Program is funded from tipping fees that are collected on waste haulers, and 33% of those fees are dedicated to an account that funds a statewide regional solid waste grants program that is to go to local governments and regional planning commissions across Texas to engage in recycling and landfill diversion activities for local governments across the state. How does this work? Trash is picked up from homes and businesses, loaded into trucks and delivered to landfills. At the landfill, the trucks are assessed a tipping fee for the trash that they deliver. 33% of that amount collected and is dedicated for the Regional Solid Waste Grants Program. There was a change last biennium, last session, to how that funding mechanism worked. So we'll see a change in our fiscal year 24-25 report. But for 22-23, that funding was deposited into a dedicated fund, which was then appropriated by the legislature to TCEQ specifically for these regional grants. The amount of funding that is received, that has been received over the past at least 20 years has been $5.49 million each year to be divvied up among the COGs. Here you can see all 24 councils of governments, and you'll notice that all 254 counties in Texas are represented by a council of governments. So these COGs are local. They are run by boards of local elected officials, and they use subject matter experts within the communities that they serve to serve as advisory council members to help them determine what is needed for the communities that are served, and also how best to meet the needs of public safety and public health when resources are finite and those needs cross jurisdictional boundaries. We like to say they're planners and conveners. So you'll hear a lot about regional planning and coordination among the councils of governments and regional planning commissions. Those terms are interchangeable, but overall, COGs help local governments deliver services to their constituents by providing technical assistance, implementation and evaluation of solid waste management programs, education and outreach, and they also provide regional training. And a big area that continues to expand is assisting law enforcement with monitoring and getting information that can be used in the prosecution of illegal dumping. They also, during emergencies, provide assistance for disaster debris management for emergency managers and those communities impacted by our hurricanes and any other natural disaster that we face throughout the state of Texas. So I always like to highlight why councils of governments are really the go-to when it comes to overseeing grants. Why are these grants given to the COGs to then award and administer out to the local governments. These 4 boxes really tell the whole story. They are familiar with those communities, with the services that are provided, and these proposals that are submitted for these funds are evaluated by public and private experts from the region who are familiar with the region's needs and issues. A big one is accountability. We do not forget that these are public funds and thus need to be treated with the utmost respect. COGS are expert when it comes to administering grant funds and local or public funds in general. In fiscal year 2020, this number is astounding to me, but in fiscal year 2020 alone, COGS were responsible for administering more than $1 billion in state and federal grant monies. And they're also legislatively mandated accountability methods. They have to be audited every single year. They report to multiple agencies every single year, and all of that reporting is done publicly. So you know exactly where those funds are going. Partnership is another one. The COGS work with the governments to develop and update the regional solid waste management plans, which have to be used to determine whether or not these programs are needed in the region. So these are projects that have been reviewed, that are not duplicative, and that goes into the next pillar over here is COGS know what activities are underway because of these reviews, because of this planning, and so they decrease the chances for duplication of services. So in fiscal year 2022-2023 biennium, there were 254 projects that were funded using the Regional Solid Waste Grant. What you'll see on the next couple of slides are some pretty incredible illustrations of the impact that this rather small pot of money can really have for the communities and for the entire state. So you'll see here that almost 2.6 million people participated in an event, attended a training, or used a facility funded and supported by the Regional Solid Waste Grant Program. 3.9 million pounds of waste were removed from illegal dumping sites. 1.2 million pounds of used electronics were collected using the funding. 9.1 million pounds of trash and recyclables at cleanups were collected, and that is the equivalent to 10,162 Longhorns. 13.6 million pounds of traditional recyclables, those are your cardboards, your glass, your paper, your plastic, and metal, were collected, and that's enough to cover 23 football fields with 1 foot of recyclables. This one's one of my favorites. We know that scrap tires are an ongoing, continuing issue, and grantees through this program in fiscal years 22 and 23 collected 275,550 tires. So when you stack those together, that's almost the height of 660 Texas Capitol buildings stacked on each other. So that's kind of an incredible visual. The impact statewide is a little bit more than even I can comprehend, and I have been working with these programs for over 15 years now. But what does it really look like on the ground? I promise you, I'm not going through all 24 councils of governments, but I did want to share some highlights from the regions that are here today. So the regions that you are from, those who serve on the MSWRRAC, will be highlighting some of that. So in the Alamo Area Council of Governments, during the last biennium, one of the projects that they funded was a brush chipper for the city of Gray Forest. What's fantastic about this was the chipper was used in this densely forested area to help citizens with disposing of organic waste and getting rid of those dead trees so that they weren't posing such a fire hazard. So they had over 200 participants using the service, and the city processed more than 50,000 pounds of green waste, again, decreasing the threat of wildfires igniting in that region. In the Capital Area Council of Governments region, that's your Austin, your Burnett, your Mason counties, their focus has been on their regional environmental task force. So that task force works to cut down on environmental crimes, and it's a multi-jurisdictional, multi-level government law enforcement effort. Through this grant cycle, they investigated over 77 illegal dump sites, 39 Class C misdemeanor sites, 14 Class B, 4 Class A, and 20 felony sites. So felony sites are those that have 1,000 pounds or more of illegal trash on them. The members of the RETF use 70 game cameras to help oversee chronic dump sites for a cumulative surveillance period of 113,324 days. In the Concho Valley Council of Governments, where Judge Dillard is from, their regional solid waste grants program funded a vertical baler for the city of El Dorado. And over the course of the year, this baler allowed the city to collect and divert 4 tons of cardboard from landfills. In the Houston-Galveston area, where Cheryl Murgo is from, and several others, Chuck Rivette, their focus was also on illegal dumping enforcement. So the Houston Police Department received a grant to upgrade their surveillance camera equipment. And with that, they were able to provide better quality images that took less time to process data and less storage demand. And the upgrade allowed the officers to review the footage more efficiently and convert cameras around the city, which helps them identify incidences of illegal dumping and download footage to provide it to investigators and prosecutors to make their cases. So this investment allowed the prosecutors to increase their conviction rate to make sure that they are finding those people and keeping these dump sites from continuing to pop up. I think I heard on here that someone was representing Goliad. In the Golden Crescent Regional Planning Commission area, the city of Cuero received 2 grants. One was to provide an update for the awning for their recycling facility that's used by several counties, as well as an update to their oil collection. And so these improvements allowed the continued success of the city of Cuero's efforts to reduce that landfill use and allow for greater regional cooperation, specifically having a facility to host household hazardous waste collection events on a regional scale. For our folks in the North Central Texas Council of Governments area, one of the projects that were funded was a partnership with the city of Denton, where they expanded their solid waste recycling valet service to the historic downtown business district. And this is a pilot food waste program where the grants purchased 5-gallon buckets and 35-gallon locking carts and a channel grinder. Through this, the city of Denton engaged 26 participating businesses and diverted over 149,000 pounds of trash or organic material from July 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2024. And in the South Plains of Association of Governments region, the city of Hale was able to refurbish a wood chipper. So I love this because not only are you using this equipment to divert waste from landfills, but you're diverting the equipment itself from a landfill. I love this quote from the city manager for the City of Hale Center. It says, with the Regional Solid Waste Grants Program funding, the city was able to overhaul our wood chipper instead of replacing it. This not only extended the life of a valuable piece of equipment, but also prevented it from being discarded. The overhaul was completed at a fraction of the cost of a new machine, enabling the limited regional funds to have a broader impact. So that was a really quick presentation of a lot of information, but I will tell you, though, these funds are limited and there's never enough. The funding that the COGS are entrusted with really does go to these projects that have a huge impact on both our urban and our rural communities, and ensure that we've got that landfill capacity as our state grows. So with that, if you've got any questions, let me know. My contact information is there at the bottom. We will get that report and link out to you. We're making a couple of final tweaks to it, but we absolutely will share that with all the members of the MSWRRAC, and we'll have it posted publicly on the TARC website as soon as it's available.
Dave, you're on mute.
Kimberly, thank you very much for the presentation. Do any of the council members have questions for her or comments?
Well, if not, I do want to take this opportunity to publicly thank Cheryl Murgo and her team, Aaron Livingston and Andrea Tantillo with the Houston-Galveston Area Council, who gathered and developed the graphics for the final report. It's a lot of work. And so thank you so much for all that you put into that for the entire state of Texas and the regional councils to share the great work that's going on with this program.
Yeah, thanks to HGAC. Kimberly, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Let's see. Next item, moving on. There was an item that was brought up with regard to question construction establishment of landfills near airports. And Frank was going to discuss this topic.
Sure. Thanks, Dave. I think it looks like it turns out it's kind of much ado about nothing. That FAA advisory was sent out right at the deadline to get stuff on the agenda. So I shot it over without having time to look at it. Mostly it's just cleanup of old web addresses and updating, I guess, strike statistics from the FAA, but no substantive changes to how we have to coordinate airport safety with landfill permits.
Okay, so we don't have anything else to discuss here, I guess. Okay, any questions or comments on this from anyone on the council? Okay. All right, going to move on to the next item, and this is something that I'm just going to tee up and let Steve comment on, but there's a conference coming up in May. It's called the Texas Recycling Infrastructure Economic Development Conference. And to me, it's interesting. They're going to have a number of pretty good speakers from a cross section of private sector, public sector, legislators, but it's really one of the things that it'll be focusing on are the benefits of the reuse of materials and the creation of jobs by some pretty big industry players as well. So they'll be talking about that. In addition, there's some pending legislation that kind of parallels with that there's discussion on. So I thought it was worth, at least some of you council members are already aware of this and these activities, this conference, these bills, but I think it's worth Steve touching on the conference and the bills if you're not aware, or at least get a little more detail. So with that, Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Well, the Tried It seminar is going to occur here in Austin. We're finalizing the venue, should be finalized in a week or so, but it will occur on May the 17th through the 19th. Actually, that will be concurrent with the STAR annual summit. And for on the 17th and half of the 18th, this Tried It seminar will occur. We are providing space for about 150 attendees. All of the members of this council will be invited to attend. What Tried It means is something that I came up on my back porch. I was sitting here trying to think, Texas recycling infrastructure. We have a void in it. We have a great need for processing, collection, densification infrastructure, particularly in the rural and underserved parts of our state, which are the source of enormous amounts of recyclables that we're not able to get because these small rural communities are not able to achieve economies of scale. So the title of this conference, Tried It, Texas Recycling Infrastructure Economic Development Initiative Team, is what we came up with. And I've asked folks to provide another name for it, but it seems quirky enough that folks seem to be okay with it. What it's about is there are vast areas in this state, rural, semi-rural areas that do not have access to recycling collection programs, drop-offs. I mean, there's some, but it can be expanded in a lot of cases. In order for something like that to happen, we envision that it's going to take a cooperative effort between local government, regional government, the economic development community, the recycling infrastructure service providing community, to work together to identify these opportunities and how they can work together to implement, develop this type of infrastructure that is needed to capture these recyclables in these rural areas. It's not going to work everywhere, but in some cases it will. So during this seminar, we're going to have speakers, including our esteemed president here, Scott Pasternak, who was, largely responsible for the development of the recycling market development plan, and so forth. And it's basically a brainstorming session. We're going to go in there and throw this issue on the table and wrestle with it and see where can we make this go. How do we go about developing this infrastructure in places so that these communities can at least investigate the possibility of it, and then decide whether it makes economic sense for their communities and their neighbors or not. We're very excited at the support that we have received from this, and the initiative team members at this point include the Texas Economic Development Council, which represents the 725 economic development corporations here in Texas, the Texas Association of Regional Councils, been very supportive of this. Keep Texas Beautiful and their sub-office, Keep Texas Recycling. The Recycling Partnership, which is a national packaging brand owner organization that is striving for more sustainability. And the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling. CapCog is a big participant in this. They had set aside last year $10,000 to conduct a seminar like this. We started talking to each other and decided, well, why don't we just combine forces and make this a little bit bigger of a thing? So we're excited to see where it may lead. What I envision could come from this are regional or sub-regional interlocal agreements whereby tonnage is committed to a system to be able to achieve economies of scale. It may not lead anywhere, but if we don't try it, it's probably not going to happen. So that's it on Tried It. We're very excited about it and are hopeful for some, not only some potential results for the CapCog region, but also this is something that we want to be able to replicate and take to other regions and areas of the state to enable those communities to examine these potentialities And so part of this conference will be just learning how can we do these conferences better. But we invite your participation, and please come and come with an open mind, and let's lay it on the table and see if we can't get somewhere with it. Dave, that sort of concludes my presentation about Tried It. Does anybody have a question or comment about that at this point? I can see everybody's real excited. Okay.
Actually, Steve, I got something. Up here in Plainview, we've been trying to get the other communities. So I want to get with you later when you're out of the deer stand and discuss some more stuff, because this is one of my big check boxes. So I'm excited.
Well, that's good. And your region, since you're stepping up, your region might be the next one where the Tried It seminar occurs. There are obviously rural areas that have enough tonnage to make some things work, but it's a matter of cooperating and working together and finding the financial resources to develop this infrastructure, as well as, it's going to create local jobs, etc. So I appreciate your interest, and you just call me anytime you want to. Any other comments about Tried It? Okay.
Steve, did you see there was a question in the chat from Shannon that says, is the Tried It initiative team open for others to join?
I think so. Please send me an email, and I'll be glad to help you get involved in it. We want this to be an inclusive event. Like I say, it will have room, we hope, for 150 people. And, just that's as big as the room is that we're looking at. So we're excited about that. If there's no other comments or anything about go ahead, please.
Steve, I have a microphone now, so I can actually say something. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
All right. I just wanted to say, please consider trying to ensure that the organics side of recycling is represented, and it might be an opportunity to coordinate with the Texas chapter of USCC.
Yes, ma'am. And in fact, I was getting ready to give you a phone call about that. So, yeah, absolutely. It's particularly when you consider that, organics is what 30% of our recycling here in the state. About a third organics, a third C&D, and a third traditional recyclables. So it's a big piece of it. And thank you for bringing that up, Risa. Anyone else? Okay. Otherwise, just a couple of other topics, just to kind of let folks keep people in the loop. STAR, in cooperation with Senator Zaffarini's office, has a bill in the pipeline now. It's at Ledge Council. It is to create a recycling market development advisory task force. We spent $500,000 putting together a recycling market development plan, and everybody was so excited when it got passed. It passed the legislature by 86%, which is some sort of miracle in its own right. There was so much enthusiasm. The issue is it took 2 years to produce the plan, right in the middle of COVID. And by the time the plan got produced, the enthusiasm had waned. And so there was no formal examination of the recycling market development plan at high state levels. I'm hearing somebody, I don't know, it sounds like some people walking down a hallway or something. Anyway, we feel as though there's a lot of value in that recycling market development plan. It talks about lots of things that the state could do to improve recycling, job enhancement, job creation, economic impacts, lots of stuff. But the fact is that the plan has really never been looked at a high level in this state. So our proposal, our legislation would be a 20-odd member advisory committee to look at the recycling market development plan. Some of these members appointed by the governor, some by the lieutenant governor, some by the speaker, some perhaps by the MSWRRAC itself, to look at this plan and see what it says and make high-level recommendations, hopefully, for adopting the parts of that plan that make good economic sustainability sense. So that's in the pipeline. We don't know that it's going to go anywhere, but it's in the pipeline. We've heard about the bottle bill. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but there's generally always at least one that's filed. There is, there's an awful lot of, particularly after the China soared and the drop, the drop in exports and the drops in the recycling market value. There's an awful lot of money being spent domestically in manufacturing facilities that utilize recycled materials and so forth. They're saying, why don't we ship this stuff all the way across the big pond and then pay to have it shipped back when we generate it right here? Let's capture it here in the United States and utilize it here. Two great examples of that here in Texas. Up here in McLennan County, Graphic Packaging International has recently opened a $1 billion 100% recycled paper fiber to paper products facility. In McGregor, Knopf Fiberglass Insulator has built a $250 million, they're just about ready to open it up, $250 million glass cullet to fiberglass plant, which I think is brilliant. I mean, we need more insulation. So those are two examples, but not every county is going to be able to afford a big manufacturing consumer like that. What's missing is the infrastructure to capture the materials and get it to these places. And there's billions of dollars being invested all across this country in these things, and Texas is missing a big chance in a lot of ways. We have 10% of all the municipal solid waste in this nation. We have 10% of the population, so we've got 10% of the trash and 10% of the opportunity. We know that approximately 50% of what we continue to landfill could be recycled if it was properly captured. So those are the legislative things that I've heard about. Well, the legislative issue that Senator Zaffarini's office asked STAR to examine it's a funding program called RIFT, Recycling Infrastructure for Texas program. It is backed by large recycling companies. I don't know a whole lot about this, but they are looking to tap into the 549 fund to provide low interest loans for infrastructure that would include reverse vending machines, drop-off type redemption facilities, not a deposit law, but that type of infrastructure. So we're watching it, and again, that might be a big help to some of these rural areas. One of the things in this draft that's in the pipeline now, the Legislative Council pipeline now, called upon the MSWRRAC to examine the loan applications and basically award them. They're re-examining that issue because it's not clear that the MSWRRAC has that type of administrative capability. So they're examining the creation perhaps of other entities similar to the Water Development Board that might be created to manage this fund and the application of the loans. So that's kind of the end of my report, Dave. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
No, I appreciate your going through that, Steve. So I would encourage you guys with this conference. I think it will be informative. It's also just good to know that there are some bills out there that have some players behind it that are specifically trying to look at from the economic development side, how to get better traction on, reusing some of these materials here instead of shipping them out of state to be used elsewhere. So, no, Steve, I appreciate all your work on this. So, any questions for Steve? Looks like you're going to skate by, Steve. So we wrap up here. Good luck when you go back out for the deer blind.
As soon as this is over.
Okay. So the last item, it's more on the administrative side. So y'all should have a copy of the October 10th meeting minutes. Hopefully you had a chance to read through them. I've read through them. They look very comprehensive. Didn't see any typos or anything. So if I could get a motion to accept them.
So moved. This is Rich.
Okay, so I've got a first from Rich. Can I get a second?
Second from Frank.
Okay, great. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. That passes. Great. I don't have any action items that we have to follow up with as far as recommendations to the commissioners or what have you. I don't know, Anna, did anyone request from the public to make any comments?
There were no requests, but we might, if anybody on Teams would like to make a comment, raise your hand. And I think we have one hand raised.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
In the recycling, the legislation and in the state code that codifies the recycling market development plan, it specifies that the recycling market development plan is to be updated every 4 years. It was published in 2021, and now it's 4 years later. So I have a question to the staff, if you can speak to it now. What are your plans and intentions in regard to updating the recycling market development plan?
My understanding for the legislation and the study is update it every 4 years as funding is available. Currently, we have not been given, this agency has not been given funding for updating the plan itself.
Do you have any idea how much money that would take? I mean,
I don't, and I would say the scope of the update would dictate how we would. It's one of those of, do we see how much funding we get and that's the level of update we do, or do we talk about how much do we update? Do we focus on a certain amount, the scope of the update, and then that will tell us how much funding we need. So we have not, I will say that the study was led out of the external relations division. So they do the recycling, they do the education program. So the study was led by them. So that is definitely conversations with David's group. Kaylin's the section manager.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak, Anna?
Please raise your hand if you do on Teams.
Okay.
I'm not seeing any others. Is there anybody on the phone? Press *5.
I thought I saw a message that Rachel Herring was waiting in the lobby.
Okay, yeah, I admitted
Okay.
Rachel.
Okay.
I'm not seeing any public comments.
Okay. I think that covers it then. Well, I appreciate everyone attending. Please make sure you have on your calendar that you're able to attend our next meeting, which is April 10th. And I'll take a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved by Scott.
Okay, a second.
Second by Steve.
Okay, well, we are adjourned. So thank you very much for everyone's time. Stay warm.